Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. Within Goddess Academy, everyone felt their fine hairs stand on end, feeling incredibly shocked. A powerful figure that was close to the domain of heavenly deity was slaughtered so easily. As a result, this place erupted with commotion. Chi Daolin was incomparably powerful, appearing in such a tyrannical fashion, leaving everyone with too deep of an impression. Everyone now understood his decisiveness in his previous words. He had said that supreme experts and divine flame realm experts could appear as they wished to kill his disciple, that he wouldn't care about that at all. It was just like how several thousand years ago, two disciples were beaten up until they never appeared again. However, if any experts go too far and want to harm his disciple, then that was definitely not okay. At this moment, he once again pretty much declared that even if it were Immortal Palace's people that crossed the line, he would still kill them without remorse. This was a vicious person. That sect didn't have endless disciples. Even if it was a great sect with disciples numbering in the thousands to tens of thousands, once provoked, Chi Daolin would still sweep them clean, annihilate them with overwhelming power. At this moment, everyone sensed how firmly he made up his mind, as well as how severe the consequences were. Old Chi is too formidable. Even though he has a notorious name, this type of domineering power, for his disciple, really is a type of good news, the best protective umbrella. Even Goddess Academy's higher-level figures sighed lightly. In a flash, thousands of years had passed. The past Chi Daolin had become more powerful. No one in the present world was willing to surround and kill him. The past little Chi had now risen up, able to stand on equal footing with the most powerful sect masters. No one wanted to become enemies with a lunatic, or else the entire clan would not be calm. When the others and younger generation figures woke up from their stupefied states, they all began to discuss among themselves. They were deeply shaken up. This really was a vicious individual, not even treating Immortal Palace as anything major. The large earthen hand did not disappear, once again reaching down to grab Immortal Palace's inheritor. Heavens, Immortal Palace's inheritor is going to be snatched up. Is he going to die as well? A few people cried out in alarm. Forget about the Academy's students, the individuals who came from different sects, even the Academy's guardian spirit, Tao Protector, and Academy head were shocked. If Immortal Palace's inheritor died here, the effects would be too great. This was not something on the level of that old servant. Regardless of whether it was for the disciple himself, or the inheritance's face, it would definitely stir up a storm. That ancient existence that had laid dormant since the archaic era might reawaken to stir up a bloody storm in the higher realms. Is he truly going to take action? Immortal Palace's inheritor really is unlucky, too pitiful. He encountered Huang, and then he provoked this strange Tao Master Chi. He is going to die an untimely death. If someone from the Supreme Being bloodline wore it, then it would be inappropriate. In addition, he knew that Shahao had a set of seemingly tattered armor that could stand off against these divine clothes. Then, he picked up the void halberd. At this moment, forget about the others, even many older generation figures' eyes began to burn with desire. This thing was too heaven-defying. With this halberd, one could easily hack apart the void, and immediately flee into the distance. It was a priceless treasure. This precious halberd isn't bad, without much Immortal Palace's imprints on it. It's not your item, so it'll serve as my disciple's spoil of war. He directly tossed it to Shahao. This old thing, he really wasn't polite, a notorious individual after all. The things he favored he directly took, it really made others' eyes red. Shahao was extremely excited. After arriving in the higher realms, he always wanted this halberd, never expecting it to end up in his hands today. This would, without a doubt, increase his fighting prowess greatly. After fighting several great battles with Immortal Palace's inheritor, if not for the pill furnace, he would have definitely been hacked apart. This precious halberd was too formidable, able to shatter the void. Not even deities could take it on. The most important thing was that with this halberd, heavenly deities couldn't top him any longer, unless they arrived secretly like Chi Daolin, and sealed the void beforehand, immediately grabbing outwards. You can take this lousy copper palace back too. Chi Daolin grabbed that copper palace and fiercely tossed it towards Immortal Palace's inheritor, sucking him inside. Then, he smashed apart the void, swatting him into the distance. So many precious medicines. When Shahao saw this, his heart immediately jumped crazily. Those containers all floated over, and there was no lack of exceptional items that were refined from holy medicines. There was even a precious pill that had divine medicine ingredients. He put them all away decisively. His spoils were truly plentiful with this victory. Forget about everything else, just these precious medicines alone were already priceless. Qi Daolin didn't stay here. His large hand became blurry, disappearing from this place. Only when he left did everyone stir up an uproar. A few people swallowed their saliva as they looked at Shahao, incredibly jealous of his spoils. Shahao raised his head and looked towards Yu Chan's main body. Even though he reacted quickly, he was still too slow. She used a region-shattering symbol, disappearing from this place. It was clear that Qi Daolin wouldn't care about these small matters between Shahao and others at his level. He wanted to use the void halberd and a few precious symbols to chase after her, but he was stopped by Qingyi, because she knew that the chances of success wasn't high. This battle stirred up great commotion. News spread to every sect. It was clear that in the eyes of many great sects, the threat Shahao posed was sharply increasing. Of course, they didn't take Immortal Palace's inheritor lightly either, believing him to be even more dangerous. It was because he was definitely going to merge with the main body. His true body was definitely going to appear during the great battle of 3,000 provinces. Second Baldy left. After learning that Shahao was all right, he felt reassured, deciding to return to his sect. The little Snow-White Rabbit made an agreement with Shahao, that in the greatest clash of the higher realms geniuses, they could form an alliance and fight for the natural luck together. She then hopped away. The little fatty also laughed in a simple and honest manner, waving his hand before leaving. The night was calm. Under the moonlight, Shahao and Qingyi walked together. There were people from Goddess Academy who saw this, but no one disturbed them. Qingyi silently departed, while Shahao returned to Supreme Being downright as well. I am going to leave. As soon as he returned, Shahao heard Qi Daolin say, Old man, you are too vulgar. Are you trying to copy Qingyi? Shahao muttered. Qingyi had said this not too long ago, and this old fella unexpectedly said the same thing. Disgraceful thing, what are you randomly spouting? You think I have the time to waste on watching you? Qi Daolin glared. Shahao immediately became serious, no longer cracking jokes, quickly fixing his expression to listen to him speak. 10 streaks of immortal light flew out from the three-world coffin. A few problems arose in the boundless uninhabited depths. I am going to look around, he said with a frown. During these past few days, he made many discreet inquiries, and as a result, obtained some information. Shahao's mind was shaken. Those that enter all die, you are going to take the risk. There are places of death, but also a few places of life that are being occupied by some sects. I am not going to take any risks, Qi Daolin said. Shahao calmed down. This old man had lived for so long, the other sects unable to eliminate him, so he definitely had life-saving measures, not sending himself to death due to stupidity. Only, his brows quickly locked together again. He had just obtained a notorious supporter, but this person was going to leave soon. This was not some good thing. Before leaving, I have a few things I want to tell you, and then we'll pay an important place in Fire Province a visit. Afterwards, I am going to disappear for a long time, so you have to be careful. When Shahao heard this, he nodded. He was also going to leave to look for the Divine Striking Stone and Emperor Butterfly. He was then going to participate in the battle. Remember, after the great battle starts, get rid of Immortal Palace's bastard for me. Don't make the Supreme Being bloodline lose face. Qi Daolin said, extremely serious, his eyes widening. Right when Shahao was going to nod his head, Qi Daolin added. Even though he is extremely powerful and you are likely not his opponent, you have to think of a way to kill him. Shahao immediately didn't feel like listening. His face fell, saying, Old thing, what are you saying? I already defeated him twice, yet you still don't think I can kill him. You shouldn't underestimate me like this. Qi Daolin sighed and said, if not for news traveling around recently, I wouldn't even have known about this. The one that is traveling the world is just a second body. We've underestimated him. This was a serious problem. He deeply understood that the main body of Immortal Palace's inheritor was definitely going to be even stronger. Once they merged, their cultivation would be hard to predict. In his opinion, Immortal Palace's inheritor even seemed to have the confidence in defeating those ancient freaks. When Shahao heard this, he was rather unwilling to accept it. How powerful could he be? Powerful to a ridiculous level. It definitely won't be something as simple as adding the two bodies together, but a sudden surge in power. Once they merge, his fighting power will erupt like a volcano. Chi Daolin sighed and said. Not even he had anticipated that Immortal Palace would cultivate this type of ancient method in secret. It was because it was extremely difficult to do, as well as exceedingly dangerous. They originally thought that Immortal Palace was only testing this on Yu Chan, never expecting that their own inheritor also cultivated it. In this world, there were actually two who succeeded. Shahao frowned and said, Is it that scary? What kind of background does that ancient method have exactly? If I have to, I'll ask Qingyi for it and cultivate it a bit too. He immediately thought of the powerful existence that had been suppressed under Five-Phase Mountain in the lower realm. That existence is extremely terrifying. Rumor has it that this existence is the posthumous child of an unmatched creature from the most ancient era, and perhaps related to the Kunpeng. Of course, these are all just rumors. Chi Daolin said. When Shahao heard this, great flames raged within him. He immediately asked about it. Chi Daolin shook his head. He only heard a few rumors as well. That existence had never seen the parents, and after birth, was sealed in primal chaos for millions of years before emerging. Shahao was stupefied. It was that senior that was sealed in the lower realm after all. Immortal Palace has a few matchless secret techniques, but they didn't establish them, but obtained them from other inheritances. It could even be said that their hands are covered in blood. Chi Daolin laughed coldly. Shahao finally understood why the undying existence was suppressed under Five-Phase Mountain, difficult to kill even after all this time. The technique Immortal Palace has is imperfect. That undying existence also divided into two bodies, and as long as one body dies and the other is alive, then they can be reborn. In addition, each time he dies once, he will experience a rebirth and carry out a life and death enlightenment, giving him a chance to become a bit stronger. This is the most fundamental difference between the perfect technique and the technique Immortal Palace obtained. Separate into two bodies to cultivate, when merged again, become even more powerful. However, the undying existence's perfect technique had a life and death rebirth, allowing for further advancement. That is why if you truly wish to kill that undying existence, both of his bodies must be killed at the same time, or else each time a single body is killed, it will only allow his comprehension to grow deeper, possibly becoming even stronger. Shahao asked where the undying existence went. This existence definitely stood at his side, but the information he obtained was similar to the rumors, that he had long entered the depths of the uninhabited region's depths. This seems to be the root of everything. Could it be that everyone will eventually have to go there? Shahao said softly. He felt that Willow Deity and Little Pagoda might be in the restricted area's depths. And now, even Chi Daolin was going to go. You have to be careful about Celestial Clan's resolution. You have to know how to protect yourself when I am not here. Chi Daolin warned. He especially warned that with that Dao Protector's life nearing its end, the reason he directly fled after his defeat last time was likely so that he could truly use up the last of his energy. He might take extreme action. Of course, if the Celestial Clan's Dao Protector took action, they definitely wouldn't hold back, going as far as needed. There was someone who unexpectedly merged with 3 pieces of Heaven's Mandate stone alone. His aptitude was only normal, not an exceptional talent. Before he merged with them, he was obscure and unknown, Chi Daolin said, and then he added seriously, however, after undergoing 3 perfect transformations, no matter how lacking his aptitude was, he still became unimaginably powerful. Is he still alive? Shahao frowned. Rumor has it that his whereabouts were lost after he explored some immortal ancient ruins. Chi Daolin said. Then, he said, the 100 rivers gathering into the sea has long begun filtering people out, registering names. You haven't paid too much attention to it. Well, I don't have much time left now either. You should think of a way yourself. Shahao was speechless. This old man was too irresponsible, right? Shahao cursed silently. Didn't they say that a few great sects could directly select and send people over, not needing to go through complicated procedures, just muddle your way in with any random inheritance? It's not that strict. Chi Daolin patted his shoulder. Then, he warned Shahao about a few other problems that had to be paid attention to. It's time for me to leave, and make a trip to Fire Province's immortal mines, see if I can obtain some natural opportunity. Immortal mine? Shahao was shocked. He knew that there were many divine mines in Fire Province that produced all types of treasures. There was one that was known to be an immortal mine, but there hadn't been many throughout history that could enter. It was extremely dangerous. The reason why I placed the Dao right here is precisely because I was paying close attention to that ancient mine. I've waited for many years already. This time, there might be a brief period of opportunity, a fleeting chance. Chi Daolin had previously stolen from hundreds of clans, and he had plundered a bone fragment that had a few secret rumors recorded on it. Through it, he was able to discover omens of the immortal mind's emergence. After waiting for so many years, he finally obtained some clues. Dao Master, bring me with you to gain some knowledge and experience. Fine. Chi Daolin agreed rather cheerfully. Fire Province wasn't made up entirely of grasslands. There were different types of terrain within the innermost depths. Waited for such a long time, but the day has really come. Chi Daolin no longer remained calm. He looked extremely moved, releasing dazzling symbols. He brought Shahao with him, directly rushing over. This was an ancient mine. As soon as they entered, there was a wave of holy aura that made Chi Daolin tremble greatly, immortal Dao aura. If this was the case, he might as well just make this place into an immortal cave no matter the cost. However, soon after, his hopes were crushed. He sensed a wave of frightening aura. This was not some good place. There were unknown dangers. This is not natural. It was created by someone. Shahao said. They called it an ancient mine, but it was more correct to call it a cave dwelling. When they walked inside, it was unexpectedly like a palace hall. Moreover, there were hatchet carvings and sword traces. It was quite clear that these were man-made. Something doesn't seem right. These sword traces, blade marks, were left behind by exceptional experts. Chi Daolin was alarmed. Someone as powerful as him, at his cultivation realm, who didn't feel moved by the things of the outside world, even changed his expression after arriving here. These were left behind by an unmatched forbidden existence. His pupils rapidly shrunk. He stared at the cave walls, becoming more shocked the longer he looked at it. It was because there were indescribable great Dao auras within every trace, incomparably profound and mysterious. One has to understand that these were not deliberately left behind by others, not for the sake of passing down anything. They were just ordinary blade marks, sword traces, left behind from opening up this cave dwelling. The so-called origin stone was born in primal chaos, tough to an unimaginable level. Its price was similar to world stone, a natural supreme treasure core. Is there still natural reason in this world? Using this type of supreme treasure to open up a cave, they should be hacked by heavenly lightning. Chi Daolin said angrily. This was too much of a waste. How could they use it like this? Origin was often associated with true immortal. This was immortal Dao precious material. Origin true immortals only existed in that past era. Was this a cave from the immortal ancient era? When they realized this, both the master and disciple were shocked. Chi Daolin wanted to explore it, but as soon as he touched the traces on the stone walls, he was immediately greatly shaken, quickly backing up. His expression was a bit unpleasant. It was clear that the traces left behind by those matchless experts were too terrifying. They contained unmatched great Dao force. He didn't continue testing it out, because there wasn't much time left. He couldn't stay here for too long. He brought Shahao with him, directly rushing inwards. Soon after, they understood a few things, because there were quite a few cracks on the cavern walls. They were created by magical force, damage brought about by the confrontation of supreme treasures. I understand now. This is a fragment of a piece of origin stone. It was originally a supreme treasure, but after others fought intensely, it was shattered, and as a result used to refine a cave. Chi Daolin said. Otherwise, no one would be so extravagant. Despite this being the case, it also displayed how extraordinary this place was. Several matchless experts carved their way in, turning it into an ancient mine. This place left others hopeful, surrounded by a haze of mystery. Origin true immortal exists simultaneously with the world, not decaying for tens of thousands of years, yet in the end, this top-grade immortal material still broke apart. It made their imaginations roam, but at the same time, they felt fear. Collect it. Even though it's cracked, it is still a divine precious material in the outside world. When refining secret treasures, even if a small piece is added, its quality will increase substantially. Chi Daolin said. If this large piece that was 9 feet in length was auctioned outside, it would definitely leave others completely shocked. Since the ancient times, not many pieces of origin stone had appeared. Of course, there was no way this piece could be refined into a supreme treasure, because the cracks inside were more dense than a spider web. It had previously suffered an extremely powerful attack, leaving behind serious damage. Shahao directly put it into the heaven and earth pouch, with any trace of politeness. I have a bad feeling the resistance is becoming stronger. Chi Daolin frowned. Following their advance, the various blade traces and sword scars on the immortal material became gradually clearer. There was an enormous pressure that made even space appear blurry. Shahao sighed inwardly. This place left him feeling a bit frightened. Just what kind of forbidden existence was it that caused such changes? Just an ordinary cave they opened up was already like this, it truly was something else. Then, a few ancient engravings appeared on the cavern walls. They were extremely mysterious, releasing mists. There were ancient natives, and there were even all types of strange creatures they had never seen before. Not good. The great Tao profound mysteries contained within these patterns are even stronger. Chi Daolin slowed down his footsteps, his face becoming serious, sweat even appearing on his forehead. Brilliant light appeared from his pupils. He circulated the 8/9 heavens art to resist it with all his strength. In the end, Chi Daolin resisted a tremendous amount of pressure, and brought Shahao with him into the immortal mine's depths. To be more precise, this was an enormous ancient palace that was full of immortal energy. This place was too mysterious, spotlessly white, and curling with mist. It was as if they entered the residence of a human immortal, a breath of air enough to make one's entire body feel relaxed, their bodies shining with a rain of light, as if they were going to ascend into the heavens. What a formidable divine ancient place. Truly unimaginable. Even Tao Master Chi's eyes were widened, making this assessment. The palace was remote and quiet, incomparably massive. Through the mists, one could see many deities consecrated above that were swirling with mysterious power. Meanwhile, the four walls were extremely unordinary. There were a large amount of engravings etched, from birds, flowers, fish, and insects to ancient sacrifices, and then to early natives, the sun and moon, various existences, immortal materials, and other things. This place was a bit special. All of the pressure disappeared, restrained within these engravings. It is temporarily safe. Chi Daolin said, Tao Master, you should hurry and look for the supreme treasure material you need. I will sit here for a bit to see if I can gain some type of insights. Shahao said, all right. Be careful. Don't stay too far from me. Chi Daolin said. Shahao immediately sat down. There were many etchings in the stone walls, all of them having their great Tao auras restrained. He cleared his mind, preparing himself, as if he was going to enter large worlds one after another. Soon after, something Shahao was completely unaware of happened that left Chi Daolin shocked. He turned around to look at Shahao, revealing a look of surprise. Behind Shahao's head appeared a ring of light. It then condensed, becoming auspicious and brilliant like a mirror. It made him seem like a cultivator that looked just like an ancient monk, but also like a divine lord. The divine ring behind him swelled unexpectedly, reflecting these diagrams one after another. The blade traces, hatchet marks, natives, sun and moon, and all types of creatures, it seemed to be imitating all of these ancient diagrams. This brat, he had this type of ability. Chi Daolin immediately voiced his shock, because he felt like the diagrams reflected off the divine disc were the same as what appeared on the stone walls. They contained a large amount of great Tao true meaning. Tao Master, what are you saying? Shahao was confused, raising his head to look at Chi Daolin. When he spoke, the mirror behind him disappeared. He was completely unaware of its existence. Chi Daolin was shocked, and then he said, no matter, you continue, don't worry about me. Don't be distracted. You should just cultivate like before. Soon after, Shahao looked over all of these ancient sculptures once. Meanwhile, the mysterious light that appeared behind him seemed to be able to illuminate the heavens, reflecting all of the diagrams. After attempting to comprehend these things for the first time, he discovered that the great Tao here were too difficult, impossible to understand in a short amount of time. He walked forward to see what kind of good things Chi Daolin obtained. Only, the light mirror behind his head never disappeared, continuing to shine there. Tao Master Chi stood there, feeling extremely shocked. He looked at the items being consecrated one after another. Shahao was shocked as well. They were deities. What was being worshipped were unexpectedly various immortal treasures that flowed with hazy radiance. They were covered in mists. The scene was shocking, no wonder it is called an immortal mine, it was unexpectedly like this. Tao Master Chi sighed and said. This row of items, every single one of them shook the past and present. Any one of them would make the eyes of sect masters of the higher realms go red, slaughtering each other, and fighting a bloody battle over them. Heaven Fault Stone, World Stone, Origin Stone, with just a random look, one would see 4 or 5 supreme treasure materials that were only recorded in bone books and difficult to find in the real world. Shahao was shocked as well. They were all rough cores for supreme treasures, any random one of them of priceless value. Chi Daolin was moved. His great sleeve moved, about to take them all, but light and shadow ruptured, and like fizzing energy, they disappeared, turning into nothing. There was now nothing left. What? An illusion. They were taken by someone already. Veins popped on his forehead. This was too much of a pity. Over here. Shahao pointed. There were a few materials on the other side that similarly made one's eyes go red. Void gold, five-phase gold, great luo immortal gold. It was as if there were flames jumping about within Qi Daolin's eyes. His mind was rising and falling greatly, finding it hard to control himself. His great sleeve move, but as a result, it was just like how it was just now, fizzing into nothingness. Only when his hand left did they reappear, despicable. Qi Daolin released a low roar. Even Shahao felt incomparably regretful. He entered the precious mountain, but he couldn't obtain anything. There was nothing worse than this. It made the master and disciple feel extremely frustrated. True dragon horn, phoenix beak, the master and disciple were about to go crazy. The treasures they saw were unimaginable, all of them things that had appeared only in legend. What was unfortunate was that Qi Daolin failed to obtain any of it. Don't tell me that this place is completely empty. If that is the case, I should just tear this entire place down. Dao Master Qi was furious. He walked forward, directly staring at the highest, most central point. The items that were consecrated there were the most rare and precious. When the pure white mists were brushed away, there were no illusions there. It was quite different from other places. There is a stone. Shahao was pleasantly surprised. Qi Daolin was moved as well. There was unexpectedly something at the highest point. Would they be able to obtain it? He quickly flung his sleeve out to collect it. Soon after, his face fell. He obtained it, but after studying it, he deduced that it wasn't any supreme treasure, just a fist-sized black stone material. This is a rocky covering. A precious material was previously wrapped around by this black rock and worshipped at the highest central point, but it disappeared. When everyone turned around, they discovered that the great mountain the immortal mine was located at began to sink, on the verge of entering the great earth. In addition, a single human figure appeared by the cave entrance, unexpectedly flickering with seven-colored multicolored brilliance, currently staring at them. A piece of seven-colored immortal gold. Qi Daolin cried out with shock. It was too late for regrets. He truly shouldn't have ran. He originally thought that it was some freak, never expecting that it was a supreme treasure core. Dao Master, don't feel regret. That immortal gold seems to have developed intelligence. Look at how she's in human form, like a woman. So what if it's in human form? Qi Daolin was furious. It was because compared to the item in his hands, the difference in radiance was too great. Shahao was speechless. He felt that the immortal gold was definitely extremely unordinary, and that Qi Daolin might not necessarily be able to deal with it. However, for some reason, she didn't walk out from the ancient cave. And it was clear that if they wanted to bring away the great mountain, an immortal mine, it was no longer possible. Sure enough, it was just like how it was recorded in the bone book, the opportunity fleeting. That great mountain was surrounded by chaotic energy, sinking into the earth, thus disappearing with a trace. It could move, only reappearing after thousands to 10,000s of years later. Dao Master, what did you get? Shahao looked towards his hand. Qi Daolin frowned. He didn't recognize this material. It was grayish without much radiance. If it was tossed into a mound of dirt, others probably would ignore it. However, soon after, he no longer felt dejected, instead revealing pleasant surprise. It was because no matter how much force he exerted, he couldn't damage this material in the slightest. Immortal material. He daringly came to this conclusion. This material was a heavenly material that wasn't exactly metal or stone. It was incredibly sturdy, the size of a person's heads. It was enough to create a secret treasure. Dao Master, our harvest this time was great. Shahao was envious. The immortal mine had existed since the ancient times. How many people wanted to go inside to obtain supreme treasures, but failed? Woo, I know. A silver phoenix was the first one to see it, but in the end, Immortal Palace's inheritor, and a few other old servants began to chase after it. Qi Daolin nodded. Shahao was stunned, but he felt relieved again. These were things even a few exceptional talents knew about. Back then, they chased after the silver-haired women together, so how could Qi Daolin not be aware? He definitely looked into this matter more closely than anyone else. I will definitely make the inheritance reappear. Qi Daolin's entire body shone, his eyes resolute, burning with incomparable passion. Then, he tore apart the void and directly left. Shahao then went on his way as well, departing from Fire Province, Goddess Province, this area. He also continued his journey. Shahao left from an enormous city, using a large-scale transport formation that could travel over dozens of provinces. Otherwise, if he relied on flight alone, only heaven knew how many years it would take. A single province, from one end to the other, was at least several tens of millions of li, the longer ones even more endless. It was an astronomical figure, large to a boundless degree. There was even less of a need to talk about several tens of provinces, or over 100 provinces of distance. Demon Province, a place where demons had emerged from since the ancient times, shaking heaven and earth. Every few years, there would be a great battle. It was also a place of crime and blood. The plant species sect demonic sunflower garden, whose reputation shook the higher realms, was precisely in this province, and it also bordered Heaven Province, which hosted the celestial clan on the far side. Shahao arrived in Demon Province, naturally not to provoke those great powers. Even if the relationship between those clans and himself were like water and fire, now was still not the time to pay them a visit. He came only to see his grandfather. They had already been separated for a period of time, and soon after, he was going to participate in the great battle of 3,000 provinces. He came to say his goodbyes. This was a desolate region. Rarely were there signs of human life. Vegetation was sparse. At the innermost region was even more a group of volcanoes. The great demonic god was precisely living here in isolation. Before they separated, because Grandpa 15 had absorbed the demonic sovereign's true blood, as a result having yin energy within him, he needed to soak in the volcanic magma to feel comfortable. Volcanoes surrounded this region. Not a single blade of grass grew here. Mountains released fiery light one after another, and there were even more streams of magma, bright red and shockingly hot. There was no unexpected things that happened. Shahao carefully looked around, and then he saw his grandfather within a volcano. Grandpa 15 was sitting within magma, his head of grey hair carrying black strands. He was seated, but when he heard the shout, he woke up, immediately revealing great joy. Child. He walked over. He wore grey clothes, quickly hurrying over, his face full of happiness. This place was isolated from the world, so he didn't know what Shahao had experienced. However, being able to meet again so quickly was still something to feel gratified and moved about. Blood was still thicker than water in the end. Grandfather, your complexion looks much better, your white hair even turning black. When I meet you again, will you directly become a young man? Shahao was excited, joking with his grandfather. Ha ha, Grandpa 15's mood was extremely good. The yin energy in his body was almost completely expelled. He also reached out his own arms for his grandson to see. It grew back. This is too great. Shahao was overjoyed. Grandpa 15's broken arm finally grew back, no longer being crippled. Once one reached the supreme expert realm, they could regrow limbs, not needing a large amount of time to do so. Child, you returned so quickly. What did you end up encountering outside? Grandpa 15 asked. There wasn't that much trouble. I ate well, slept well, and even encountered many great natural opportunities. Shahao feared that his grandfather would become worried, so he didn't talk about the various miserable things. Stinky brat, still wanting to hide things from me. From your appearance, you are purposely only reporting the good news. Just talk about it all. Grandpa is not an outsider. Grandpa 15's eyes were deep, as if they could see through everything. When Shahao honestly spoke about everything he experienced during this period of time, Grandpa 15 became furious. Celestial Clan has gone too far. At the same time, he was also grateful. His grandson obtained a formidable master. The grandfather and grandson had many things to talk about, a single chat taking them late into the night. Shahao told his grandfather that he was going to join the great battle of geniuses soon, and that he might be gone for many years this time. However, you definitely have to be careful. We don't need rankings, just need to be alive. Grandpa 15 grabbed him. He was a man of steel, but in that instant, old tears almost flowed down. Shahao also felt his nose becoming sore. He hugged his grandfather and said, Grandfather, don't worry. I will definitely come back alive. No one can deal with me. Even if it was not for anyone else, just for his grandfather alone, he would keep himself safe and return alive. Bring this. Grandpa 15 took out the true primordial record and 10,000 spirit diagram, having him bring them with him. After repeatedly studying it, he felt that this palm-sized sparkling white bone was quite unordinary. It might be able to display some use. Shahao nodded, bringing it with him. It was because in the wasteland region's western tomb Beast Mountain, this diagram had displayed some changes, displaying some exceptional qualities. Grandfather, this is the Heaven's Mandate Stone. He wanted to give this to his grandfather. After the Heaven's Mandate Stone chose someone, even if it was taken out, it wouldn't choose another person to merge with. It could not display a perfect evolution. Shahao directly hacked the Heaven's Mandate Stone in half, putting one half into Grandpa 15's hands. Even though it can't merge with others, this thing can still be crushed into powder and used like divine precious medicine. When it was time to part, both of them were reluctant. There were too many things to talk about, right, Howard? This place might have some ancient flame, the reason why there are so many volcanoes here. Grandpa 15 told him, wanting his grandson to stay behind and collect that fire seed to increase his strength. There's no need, I'll think of another method. Shahao shook his head. He also passed down all of the immortal ancient sacrificial language to his grandfather. If there is karma, he might be able to obtain that ancient flame. Finally, it was time to separate. Both grandfather and grandson couldn't help but shed tears. It was because after they separated this time, it was unknown when they would meet again. Perhaps it would be a few years, maybe 100. It might even be an eternity. The great battle of 3,000 provinces, ordinary cultivators might be fine, but those that wanted to seize the greatest natural luck would definitely fight life and death struggles. It was the most dangerous. Shahao left. When leaving Demon Province, he was especially careful, taking several detours. Only after departing from this province did he borrow an enormous transport formation to head for 5 Elements Province. Without batting an eyelid, he brought out the pill furnace and opened the lid to collect that divine rainbow. Youngster, you are too evil, wanting to use the Immortal Tomb's curse to deal with me. It was precisely the divine striking stone. With a kai sound, it fell out, appearing in front of Shahao. Then, the Emperor Butterfly appeared, moving like a golden streak through the air and descending into Shahao's hair. Shahao was extremely happy. These fellas had waited here this entire time, not leaving after all. It saved him the trouble of looking for them. Youngster, you've waited for so long. I heard that a string of fate brought you several hundreds of thousands of li away, and then the girl you brought away to take as a wife almost got you killed. The divine striking stone roared with laughter, looking like it deserved a good spanking. Rotten thing, you are putting salt on wounds as soon as we meet. Shahao grabbed him, his right hand shining and fiercely pinching down. Stop, bastard, why is your hand so hard? The divine striking stone cried out strangely. Of course, it was still exaggerating to some extent. Its magical force wasn't all that, but the material it was made of was top level, incomparably sturdy. As a result, the Emperor Butterfly transmitted a bit of divine senses, telling him that the Silver Phoenix woke up, turned into a beautiful and outstanding silver-haired woman, and then it crazily beat up the divine striking stone, chasing it for several tens of thousands of li and fiercely venting its resentment before leaving in the end. Didn't you say that she was chased off by you? Shahao asked the divine stone. Fuck that damn bird. She is the descendant of a phoenix, almost returning to her roots. Once she turned into a silver phoenix, reawakening from serious injuries after bathing in divine flames, it became even stronger. Angering me to death. What you laughing at, brat? You cut off the other party's silver feathers, doing an absolutely terrible job, making her look like a pigeon, but in the end, she vented all of her resentment on me. Those phoenix flames truly are intolerable. I am so fucking unlucky. The divine striking stone was so angry it was hopping in fury, cursing continuously. This time, it was humiliated again, making it feel incomparably downcast. If not for it running fast enough, it would have been caught. Back then, Shahao feared that the silver phoenix would be recognized by others, so he directly gave her a complete makeover, cutting her precious feathers that were flickering with silver radiance, all uneven and scraggly. That silver-haired woman was immediately so angry she almost fainted. When she revived, he knew without even thinking about it that she was definitely driven mad. Big bro, do you see how loyal and devoted I am? I followed you bravely with no thought of personal safety, risking life and limb. You have to give it to me. The divine striking stone was so sickeningly corny that it gave others goosebumps. Who cares about that silver phoenix troubling me? Next time we meet, I'll directly settle things with her in front of her face. No, such a gorgeous silver-haired girl, cool and elegant to the extreme, it's up to you to deal with her. If it's too troublesome, I'll carry her back. You even helped her trim her silver feathers, personally doing the work. This kind of thing I promise I will tell the entire world, let everyone under heaven know, leave her with no choice but to marry you. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.